Welcome back to Aidan, Making Businesses Smarter. I'm your host, Matt Slarchik, joined once again by Aidan founder and CEO, Quentin Fisher. In our previous episode, we explored the technical architecture of AI solutions from the control tower to vertical AI. But today we're tackling perhaps the most challenging aspect of AI implementation, which is making it stick in your organization. The reality is that even the most sophisticated AI solutions fail without proper adoption. It's not about developing technology. It's about creating lasting change in your organization and how your organization operates. I'm excited to welcome a special guest to our conversation, Dr. Jane McGrew, who leads AI adoption, training, support, and data quality here at Aidan. Jane works directly with clients to bridge the gap between technical capabilities and practical business implementation, which ensures that AI doesn't just get installed, it gets embedded into the organizational fabric. Jane, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So let's talk about the amazing capabilities and the implementation process that requires for this change. When it comes to AI adoption, Jane, what do you feel is the biggest challenge?
I think with this new wave of AI, going on, there's so many challenges that I've seen with different organizations when it comes to AI adoption. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is a resistance to change. For years, people have been accustomed to to having these routines, a way of doing things. But when it comes to implementing or adopting a new change, it becomes a challenge. And especially because they are not sure whether this AI is coming to take away their jobs. So there is that resistance to change, which can, create anxiety among our employees. I think the other challenge that we see is the lack of mismatch between, what the executives want and what actually is on the ground. You find that the executives, maybe they want this new thing, right? There's the hype of AI, so they want it, but they do not take time to lay the foundation, especially the literacy foundation that will help the team members to embrace it, use it, and continue. So lack of that disconnect can create fear among the team members. The other challenge I think is in terms of data quality. If an organization is working or they're trying to use AI, they are trying to implement or utilize the AI using data that is inconsistent, is missing, or is of poor quality. That can actually be a challenge. And uh, uh,
Yeah, yeah, I think,
yeah,
yeah, I think Jane, like to your point, it's like getting people to adopt it, but we sometimes have a tough enough time getting people to adopt reports and spending a lot of time validating that the data in the report is correct. And, sometimes,
Yes.
it takes
yeah,
some work to get it there.
mhm,
Then you take that next step towards AI, and all of a sudden, it's not just a human looking at a report. It's
yeah,
potentially an action being taken or, an insight or recommendation. And it's another step or two evolve. And if that's based
Yeah.
on, to your point, bad data, you're
yeah,
going to lose a lot of confidence in the results.
mhm,
And then it's kind of, what do they say? Like they say, it's your career that it takes a lifetime to build a reputation and 5 minutes to lose it, right? And I'm not saying it's that bad, but
yeah,
it's kind of the same thing. You got to really, to your point, build that foundation up, and it's not
mhm,
necessarily a
yeah,
quick
yes,
thing,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And Jan, what you're expressing, it sounds it's a complex problem. We have two elements. We have the human element, which is fear of adoption, and we have a data quality, which is very technical. And without
Mhm.
that, we're at risk of losing confidence and buy-in from stakeholders and executives to continue AI adoption and keep on developing AI use cases. So this cycle could continue. We can create better products. So which one do we tackle first when we have data quality and this human element? Where do you think is this the chasm crossing? What do we tackle first?
Okay, so I think both are important to be tackled, but I think we can talk about the human element first because you know, it's humans who are dealing with these machines, right? And so we are dealing with people who are already, maybe they do not have this technical background. And so there is that fear, the fear of, let's say, replacement, lacking understanding of what AI is coming to do for them or how they can use it to maximize, their outcomes, their productivities in their workplaces. So having that fear can really affect the way they engage with it. There's also, I would say, um, the fatigue. There have been so many tools, softwares, and the organizations have been just a wave of systems coming in and going. And so the team members can feel like, okay, it's just another tool that is here to disrupt us. So what's so different about this than the one we had, previously? So that fatigue can actually make the team members to be disengaged. Oh, there is self-doubt. I say people who have no technical knowledge, they do not have that tech background, can feel can have that sense of self-doubt. They can doubt themselves, and I can imagine them asking themselves, what is AI have to do with us? Data people, why not give it to data people? We are not data scientists, so what does AI have to do with that? So also, those are some of the things I've seen. You know, yeah.
So Jane, you have a very deep background in, you know, education, a PhD and helping people understand, how to learn math and do better and all this stuff. Like, how do you, that just seems like a big challenge. Is the idea to build like safe spaces for these folks to kind of learn the foundations, or how do you, like, what are some of the techniques or leading practices that you've seen that we're working to adopt in the world of AI?
I think so. With my education background, I can say that. So some of these challenges can be alleviated through training. Give people training, offer that foundation so that they have that self-confidence. It starts with just giving them small, bit-size education training so that they can digest and move on to progress along the continuum, offer them industry use cases where they can learn what other people have done and how other organizations have succeeded, but also offer them workshops where they can learn through doing, having that interactive workshops where they're doing and they can see what the AI is doing for them, like asking questions to the AI and getting recommendations or answers can help them, alleviate that fear or that self-doubt.
You bring up a lot of good points, and I think to your you mentioned word disruption. A lot of times we don't like change when there's disruption because harder for us to adapt to products and change. And maybe we have to change the belief of these folks that we're not creating disruption, we're creating ease of use, better workflows, we're optimizing workflows. We're enhancing what you're currently doing, not creating more difficult environments to learn and everything
Yeah.
else. It's almost like we have to sell them the dream in a sense, because when I first understood what you guys were doing in the work, I think it took me maybe about 6 months till where everything really stuck and I really understood this complex sell of AI and what it can do for the businesses. And, same thing here. I think as AI is maturing, we're creating more understanding of what it is and what it can do. Right now, we're thinking it's maybe Google on steroids, where it's just a chat and we ask a question, it's, spits out some information. And now we're understanding that AI is more complex. It's large language models. It's able to give us reports and workflow optimization, et cetera.
Mhm.
So the second piece to AI adoption, now we have this human element that we're trying to conquer. What do we do with organizational readiness and this data quality issue that you guys have seen in organizations?
Yeah, uh, I think before I even go to this question, I think you kind of mentioned the human nature, the ability to, we all desire to control something, but when AI comes in place, we feel like we're being replaced. Our autonomy, our ability to make decisions is taken away. And so that is also creating our fears and worries among people. So having that training to actually allow people to see that AI is not about taking your ability to make decisions, ability to make any recommendations. It's a support tool. It's your co-pilot. You're the main pilot. It's just a tool to help you or to work in collaboration with you. It's it's a good thing, and that is what we are trying to help people understand. Um,
I was going to say that, Gene, that the things I've learned from you since you've joined is meeting the students, will say, where they're at, right? Not
Mhm.
trying to drown them and make you find bite size, let them digest
Mhm.
bite size. And then the
Yeah.
other key thing you talk a lot about is hands-on, right? Making
Yes.
sure that it's not just theoretical, but it's practical. It's a practical use case. They get a chance to try in a
Mhm.
system or a sandbox, something
Yeah.
they've learned.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've held workshops where we've actually had, business owners coming in the workshops, and we provide these AI tools, and we give them hands-on exercises to carry on, and we see their faces lit up when you ask a question and it's giving you an answer, and then you're able to go to the next question, all the way to the recommendations, all the way to even categorizes your options. So you have like, okay, this is the best option, second best, that. So we've seen people actually enjoy doing it, and by involving them in that way, they feel like they're part of something. It's they feel like they're part of the process. It's not what AI can do for them. It's what they can actually accomplish together in collaboration with. So I forgot your question. Matt, if you don't mind repeating it.
No, no worries. I think that's beautiful that you explained. You help them be involved and you're part of the process the same way in healthcare. We don't want to think that doctors are in control of everything in your health. You want to be involved in the care plan and the treatment plan, so you feel that we're in collaboration of making my body feel better so I can get discharged and etc. So we really touched upon this human element, changing beliefs, workshops, and training, and getting them up to speed from the adoption side of things, so they're able to be ready for the technical part. And we mentioned that there's two steps into adoption: the human element and the data quality element. So when it comes to organizational
Mhm.
readiness and data quality, how do we assess this organization's maturity and adoption when it comes to this technology?
Um, so yeah, so that's a very good question. I would say that so organizations, they vary and their needs are different. So there's no one size fits all solution to different organizations. So what we do is we carry out a fit assessment. Uh, it's an assessment that we do to ascertain or to assess the needs of a certain organization. Like, what are their pain points? What are their objectives? And do these objectives can AI be used to meet these goals? Can AI be used to alleviate the pains that this business is facing? And once we have had that, sit down with the organization, the members, or are part of the planning or whoever is involved. Once we understand their needs, then we move on to the next phase, which is about understanding their data. What are the infrastructures that they put in place? What are the data, the data sets that these people are trying to, uh, are in place that can be used, in helping train these AI. So once we have established their data, their infrastructures, then we go ahead and, assess the quality of the data. Could be looking at whether the data is consistent, whether the data is, it's accurate, it has gaps, all those because we understand the importance of data. So we say that AI is as good as the data that you feed it. And so because AI mostly we feed it with it's a historical data. So if the historical data is skewed, obviously you're going to train an AI model that is also skewed. So it's gonna give you inaccurate results. So let's assume that we are training an AI, most maybe to be marketing managers using it, and we want to help we want to make maybe future predictions about our customer segmentation. And we've trained the model using data that is skewed. Okay, this AI is telling us that a majority of our customers are in Florida. Okay, that's because you've trained it with the wrong data. So obviously, it will cost us money because you might think that, okay, so most of our customers are in Florida. So what do we do? So what is the next best thing for us to do? Maybe set infrastructures in Florida, so because that is where most of our customers are. But in reality, that is not true. Maybe they're in North Carolina or they're in Ohio, And so using bad data to train an AI will cost a company so much money. And so that is why it's very critical to use data that is of high quality. So we take caution in educating our clients of the importance of having quality data.
And I think it's very important, Jane, that you led with the use case, right? Because you're never going to get all of your data in your entire organization up to that level. It's just not going to happen, right? But to your point, you find these pain points and you identify this use case, and then you drill into the data along, that supports that use case, right? And then it becomes part of the process for this kind of use case. And I think there's with some of the new technologies that we use, right? Things like a data lake, right? You don't have to, before you used to have to build a SQL database or warehouse that had all the data. Now you put it into a lake, but you can really identify that stripe of data end to end that's supporting that use case that you talked about and really drill into that. So I think and that way, because I think the thing with data, nobody wants to focus on data quality. Like it just,
Mhm.
but if you embed it into this process to drive a prediction or a, or an AI outcome that you're really trying to go for, it's an essential piece of it, right? So it kind of moves away from kind of homework that nobody does to a critical piece in a very targeted
Yeah.
solution.
Yeah. And so when we are talking about data quality to our clients, we give them examples of everyday cases, day-to-day cases, use cases on how AI is utilized in their daily lives. For example, we tell them, how would you feel that if you're traveling, maybe you have an 8-hour journey to an unknown area, but the GPS you're using is giving you 20% of the time wrong direction. Obviously, you're gonna waste a good chunk of your time because you have to keep recalculating the directions are wrong because the AI is wrong. Or maybe you're training chefs, they are these, they have good accolades, but you're training them with the wrong ingredients. Obviously, they are very qualified chefs, but because the ingredients are wrong, uh, the outcomes will be wrong. So it's the same with the data. We could have all the infrastructure, we have the data, but if the data is wrong, then our outcomes of what we are doing will be wrong. So that's why it's very crucial to have data that is trustworthy.
And talking about this data, like I like the philosophy that we have here. We're starting small, we're gonna scale smart, we target use cases because we don't want to boil the whole ocean or the whole lake. That thinking about data and quality, it sounds very complex, right? So let's start with a few use cases. So how does this process look? We're not going over the whole entire data lake. So I'll just say we have one use case that's going to have significant ROI. Do we take a segment of this data and then we refine it to train this model and then we have that one use case? So is it a continuous process? How does that look?
I think I'll invite Quentin.
Well, yeah. So I think it's kind of exactly along what you're saying there, Matt. I mean, like when we understand the entire chain to produce this end result, right? And that starts with the source data all the way through cleaning it and aligning it and doing some joins and making it. And then maybe if you're doing some machine learning, you might be doing some fancier stuff. Or if you're doing some large language model stuff, you might be building some indexes, and then you kind of build your models or apply your models, and then you test it, right? And then you kind of just go around and around on this. And machine learning and AI is very iterative, right? So the idea is that you have this end-to-end pipeline, right? That we're building solutions on. And I always tell Jane and everybody else, like I'm a manufacturing guy at heart, so lean. So it was always like single piece part. You don't want to, do 1,000 items, all these use cases and kind of plod through because then, oh, I messed up. I got to go redo 995 of them. You kind of go through as quickly as you can with a very light thing, and then you iterate and you iterate and you iterate. And what the reason that works is because we have sensors and what happens is Jane is setting up these monitors at various points in that chain, right? And she's measuring kind of key things and doing that. And then as we go through, we identify problems and we fix and because some stuff doesn't matter, right? Other stuff is super critical. You don't really know unless you kind of go through the process. Once we always say it's an 80-20, the 80-20 rule, right? You kind of go through it, spend 20% of your effort to get 80% of the results and learn, and then spend another 20% of the effort to get the next 80% of the results. And then when you go around 3 times, 4 times, you'll get it way, way more accurate than if you tried to do everything from left to right. So anyways, point is that those monitoring points are set up, right? And you can create quality scans along the lake at various points and the testing as well, right? So that we can understand, the, the outcome, but then also the, I'll say the resiliency and the robustness of it too, because we're going to want to test different scenarios and almost like stress test the solution, right? So we're doing things called red teaming, all these other things that you really want to stress test the whole process. And part of that is making sure that your kind of data is supporting
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for that explanation. So it's a refinement and continuous process, and that makes sense why AI is not just a software you put in a package and sell it. It's something that has to be continuously tested, reiterated, and it needs upkeep. It's not just a single point, one stop solution and kind of just
Yeah,
drop
yeah, that's
off,
a good point.
correct?
So once you're live, right, the data still needs to be measured, because I guess that's the kind of key. And like we talk about data quality being so important, and it's not just to kind of build the solution. It's once the interesting thing with AI is that it lives in the wild. It's in the real world. It's got real world data. Real world data is moving around, and there's this thing called drift. So these processes that we're building, right? We need to make sure that they're quality, but they don't drift over time. And then we need to build retraining or do some new prompt engineering based on this drift. So this is where these monitors are so important, right? And it's the quality. It's not just one and done when you build it. Yeah, it needs to be there when you build it, but also the ongoing monitoring of it. And then the solutions that we're implementing, right? They're not just one and done. We're actually almost building this ecosystem. And I think kind of going full circle, Jane, it then comes back into the people, right? Because
Yeah.
thing that really makes these solutions sing is when the people start saying, hey, what about this? What about that? Hey, I thought
Mhm.
about this. Thought about
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
And then you get
Yeah.
this upward spiral, right? Because then everything starts going really good.
Yeah. Yeah. So we say once, okay, so rolling out the model is one thing, but then there is the real work that happens on the ground. And that is when people start actually using the AI tools. And we encourage them to provide us feedback, because it is through that feedback that we are able to know problems as they escalate. So we can, as they come up, so we can tackle them before they escalate. We're also able to see people, giving us feedback, and actually, like what Quentin has said, uh, trying to provide other other ways that AI can be used, not just as problem solving or just to solve the problems which are coming up, but to see people suggesting, okay, maybe we can use it for doing this, we can use it for doing that. Yeah, yeah.
And back to the human element. So when it comes to education, how are we educating different stakeholders in this process when it comes to executives, people in operations, maybe even the data analysts? Does that process look singular? Is it multifaceted when it comes to the educational approach?
I think the education, the training that we provide is role based most of the times. We look at how AI can be utilized in different situations. So, for example, for the executives, we help them to understand how AI can be used to, in what is the value that AI has on the business. When it comes to return on investment, they want to see what AI can do for them. In terms of data analysts, those ones already have an understanding of what AI is, and so maybe those ones they need a more advanced understanding of how they can, continue processing the data. So because this processed data, this cleaned up data is very essential for training the AI models. But when it comes to like maybe non-technical stakeholders, maybe they do not have that much understanding of, the AI. And so for those ones, you have to understand how you're going to curate the training for them to understand from the basics what AI is, what it can do, what are the different use cases, industry use cases. Just give them piece by piece so that it's not too much for them to swallow. It's just right, the right amount of dose for them. So it's not too overwhelming for them. But also, providing those interactive learning so they can learn by doing. So I will say it depends on who it is that we are training.
And when it comes to the feedback loop, how are we refining that process? So we talk about data. We know that tech wise, we're always refining data maturity when it's drifting. We're always adapting the process. How are we doing that same approach on the human side of things? Are we doing biweekly meetings? Are we allowing them to just be curious, come back with questions? What does that process look like from that human organizational standpoint?
So when it comes to the feedbacks, we keep our doors open because we are working with our clients, throughout. So we keep our doors open, whether it's like providing tickets or, having that hour where we have a time to look at the emails, to look at their questions. And so we know that providing that support is very important. And that support, we provide it through the surveys, through the questions that they are asking. So if they're asking several certain type of questions, we know the kind of support to offer them. So I'll not say it's a weekly or it's a daily or it's a monthly support that you're offering, but it's based on when the client need the support.
I think some other thoughts on that, or aspects to that. Some other aspects to that, Gene, are that when we go live, there's typically what we would call a hypercare phase, where it's like a lot more hands-on and a lot more involvement to kind of get people. Of course, you train them up and kind of all that stuff. So there's just kind of higher maintenance, kind of hypercare phase, and then we typically move into a support mode. And the reason we have this broader support mode is because, just kind of like what we were talking about earlier, these models and these solutions, they require a little TLC, a little tender loving care. And so do the people, right? And so do the people. So we kind of bake that in to the approach, because we've learned over the years that we tried to do this and do it like in a pure SaaS. Here you go, you do it. Doesn't work.
Yeah.
So it's important that we're involved. I think the other thing too is we can see with the traffic and the volume and what the usage is, right? So we can, it's not just being available for our customers and the partners as they come in, but it's also proactively monitoring. And I think, Jane, a lot of the things that we've put into our support model is to exactly do that and try and stay ahead of these things and say, hey, adoption seems to be low in this area. Let's try and get ahead of that.
Yeah. And so we understand that, we can roll out a product AI model to an organization, but if we don't provide that support, teams can get frustrated and, disengage very early, especially if they do not have that technical background. So we understand that providing that support is very necessary, and especially in alleviating the self-doubt that I had talked earlier about. We want them to feel empowered We want them to feel like they can work with the tool and not to feel powerless when they are faced with a challenge. So we offer that support whenever they need it.
It sounds like your customers are your partners as well, because this is so multifaceted where we have tech adoption. We have to kind of making sure where they are at the readiness curve and meet them where they are with tech and educate them. There's workshops, there's meetings, trading models. There's a support aspect to see maybe the non-executives what the adoption is of this technology, so we can talk to the executives and kind of curate what is the best approach so adoption continues and the tools are being used properly. In your experience, is there maybe a single strategy or something that's very powerful when it comes to overcoming resistance that you notice in your experience?
So I would say, so first of all, the kind of support that you offer, that is aimed at helping alleviate that pain is based on empathy. We understand that we are working with people who have different technological needs. And so having that empathy towards our client is very crucial. And so what we offer is mostly training. We make sure that we are training our clients so that they're self-reliant, but also they have that foundational literacy that they need for them to keep or to keep excelling in their roles. Um,
Yeah, I think empathy, listening to them,
mhm,
understanding the pains. Ultimately, right, we're trying to get to outcomes, right? And we do a lot with a lot of mid-market organizations, and there's no budget for science projects,
mhm,
right? People need to actually get real value out of this. So I think that's, empathy and results are kind of what we're going after. And
mhm.
that's exactly why Jane's part of the team, right? Because we know this is such a critical point, a critical component of
Yeah,
both getting the adoption so that the organization can get the results, right?
yeah,
And I
yeah.
think those are some of the key points there.
Mhm. And so when we are like training them, when you're having like those those workshops and having them actually need to do something work so that they are part of the process, they're part of so they feel like they're part of the adoption process. It's not something that is just put in and they are told I have to do this. They feel like they have been involved from the beginning, and having that feeling that like you're needed in the process, in terms of the employees actually have very good rewards because they feel like their 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 input is valued by the company, and their the ability to adapt it, to embrace it is very, very, it's very fast. It's easier for them to buy in.
And we really encourage our clients, their customers, to take on as much as they can, right? It's not as though we're trying to hold on to this stuff. We absolutely want to push it to our customers as much as they can absorb,
Mhm.
right? As much as they can eat, right?
Yeah.
Because we know that this is these technologies and capabilities are really transforming the world, right? And the faster our customers take this on, and the more they can take on, that helps us provide those higher value use cases for them, right? And those
Mhm.
more innovative things, and helps them think about, ooh, now how do we start maybe changing the business model that would take
Yes.
advantage of these capabilities? So we
Mm.
very much want, you mentioned it earlier, we're really partnering with with our customers, and we really want them to absorb, once again, as much as possible so that we can accelerate them on this transformation that
Mhm.
is coming.
Yeah. and actually working with organizations where we have like our people into the organization, they're like champions of AI, like they want it, they see the value in it. And also, they may not understand how to do it, but they are willing and accepting to learn new things. Actually, it turns out to be a very good thing, in terms of, adopting this AI.
Jane, so to your point, it's almost like finding super users in the organization that love the product, that learn very quick, and they're willing to teach their peers and getting them up to speed as well, so they could benefit as much as they currently
Yeah.
are. And Quentin, when it comes to AI adoption, when it comes to the IT department, if you have a large IT department, is the adoption quicker versus other organizations, or really it's standard because the tech is so much different? This is like an analytics, maybe AI cost department or operations versus IT, and you still have to really waterfall the the technology and the adoption to them before they get up to speed.
Yeah, I think having really good partnership and buy-in with the IT team is critical, right? As equally as critical, maybe even more critical, is to have the business users, the domain experts really buy in, right? And we are the true uh, subject matter experts and architects of the potential because they understand the business, right? And that's what AI is, more of a business tool, a business transformation tool than kind of things about it, right? And so there's been a lot of discussion in the past where data organizations sit inside of organizations. Do the data organizations sit inside of IT, or does data sit inside the business? And I think the answer is yes, right? There's roles for both, right? And I see AI as the same thing because it's so important to have. We talked a lot about the data, but even just what this is a decision. This is a decisioning tool, as well as this is a decision support tool, and it doesn't. So it's even probably maybe even closer to the business side of things, right? Now you need to make sure that there's some, you know, alignment across the organization, and it's not anarchy and every organization doing everything. There's some consistency, and that's, I think, where the IT organization can really come in and provide some standards and kind of help execute an organization with some scale and consistency. So, I mean, like I said, I think the answer is kind of yes to all that. And I think the other maybe big thought there is that this is no longer an IT budget item, right? This is an operational budget line item, right? This can fundamentally change your cost of goods sold, your cost of services, because you can get so much more done and potentially add new kind of value streams or service lines into your organization. So that's the way people need to start thinking about this. It's not just an IT line item. If that's the mindset, we need to helicopter up a bit and really explore the potential of this.
I think we really are shifting, beliefs to your point from this is a operational business expense, not just IT, because the shift with AI is happening so quick. We just started within a year from isolated tools and this chat interface to like a complete end-to-end transformation of workflows and AI agents. And I don't think people can comprehend how fast this is happening. So this is an open-ended question. What are your thoughts on this evolving AI market? Where does the future lie for AI and businesses?
Might I take that one, Green?
Yes. You can go ahead. Okay. I'll say that and continue after. I think with AI shifting very much, I think in the future it's going to become something that is uh, is not a nice to have anymore, but it will be a necessity. I think businesses which will have, embraced AI will be in a better position than those that will not have it. So I think it's good to jump in, to take that leap of faith and see where AI will take you. Yeah.
I think we're techno optimists here at Aidan, and we're building a whole business to help other businesses help adopt this, and we know that this can absolutely transform their businesses, and there'll be market segments that get transformed because of this. And I think to Jane's point, you got to jump in and you got to learn, right? If the water's warm, it's great. Yeah, come on in. And that's, and even back to Jane's point, like even just for organizations, the best way to learn and adapt is by doing, right? And that back to this AI fit assessment, right? Just understand some high value use cases and go in and just get in it, get at it, right? And then start learning. And I think the potential will just, um, explode from there. But you kind of got to get in and try and hit some of these high value, kind of lower cost, easier items to get going and start doing that. But yeah, I mean, the other kind of thought there is that these solutions and capabilities are growing at a exponential rate, and it is hard for me to keep up to all the change and innovation that's going on. It's happening, folks. It's happening fast. It's only accelerating. That's the other thing too. So I think getting in now, getting in and learning, asking questions is absolutely critical. And we think to Jane's point, it's going to be a necessity, but it's also going to be a much better place. And I think it's up to us to not only become more efficient and save money, but to grow and to build all these new jobs that we're going to need with this capability to do all these things that need to be done that aren't getting done. And we all know there's a lot of stuff out there. So that's what we can use these tools to go do.
Quentin, Jen, very eye-opening episode, just hearing about AI and where it's headed, where right now it's nice to have. The early adopters are going to be ahead of the curve because we're building the proper foundation. This is going to be not only a tech stack, this is going to be a platform and operating system that's going to create your business efficiency, and it's going to make things run so much better. Also very eye-opening hearing this two-part element where it's not just data and fancy tech, but it's also this human element leading with empathy, curiosity, being able to have proper training to adapt to AI and your organizational culture so you get the most benefit out of these tools. So thank you guys for this episode and the value that you guys provide and the wealth of knowledge you guys are. Thank you.